Hey guys, welcome to Mount Ararat, episode 13. As always, I'm your host, Adam Lavelle of the Noah Network. You can find us here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. We are everywhere. And we talk pro wrestling Noah, wrestling done right. Now, excuse me, I am still recovering from the flu or something that I've had for about a week. I'm majorly over it for the most part, but my energy level is still low, and I'm doing a lot of sleeping and still some coughing lightly, but don't really have a cough button. So bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to be a little quicker than normal because this is like the second or third time I've started to record, and I'm not feeling it. Now, it has nothing to do with the wrestling of Pro Wrestling Noah. I'm still thankful to have that in our lives because there's so good a little wrestling out there. But I need to get this done. I need to suck it up and do the best I can. Please bear with me. I don't want to be one of those boring YouTube guys. Nothing worse than looking up a video about a subject or something going on out there in the world or a TV show that you like and watching a video and the guy, the girl, the team, what have you, that's bringing it to you is boring as hell. They're just not good talkers. They have no energy. They have no charisma. They have nothing. And I don't want to be one of those. And I worry that I'm going to lean that way this week because of how I've been feeling. So those of you who stick with me, I appreciate it. Let's jump into the May 4th show is where we're going first from Korakuen Hall, the Dream On show. And there were two of them. There's one on the 4th and one on the 5th. Well, of course, we're starting with the 4th. But before we do, I need to address a couple things. First of all, yes, Nosawa Rongai is no longer with Pro Wrestling Noah, and out the door with him went Paris Del Mal. We will still cover their matches here, but they're of little importance. To waste a lot of time on a review of a Paris Del Mal de Japón match really is pointless. And this has nothing to do with me being angry with them or upset or anything like that. These things happen. Yes, Noah's going to have a new booker now. No, I don't care who it is unless they show me that they don't know what they're doing or they book Noah in a way that I don't enjoy it anymore, which I certainly can't imagine that happening. But we'll have to wait and see. And I will miss Takano, who I believe is an amazing wrestler and was on his way to the top of the card here quickly in Pro Wrestling Noah, but he's now gone as well. Kotaro Suzuki, probably the best pure wrestler in all of Paris Del Mal. He's gone as well. And that's just sad. But that's how it is, I guess. There are rumors that other guys are going to be leaving like Yohei. I don't know if that's true or not. I guess we'll have to wait and see. If there's one thing I've learned through this ordeal of Nosawa and Paris Del Mal leaving Pro Wrestling Noah, is that trying to find deep inside information about this company is pretty tough. Yeah, Voices of Wrestling claims to know a lot. They have a podcast they want you to pay for, which I would never do. I'm never paying for a pro wrestling. I'm not going to pay for Conrad Thompson and his world famous wrestlers and wrestling personalities. Why in the world am I going to pay for a bunch of jabronis that just run a pro wrestling website? I'm not. And even if someone gave it to me for free, I don't know that I trust these guys. Like, how would these group of guys know anything going on behind the scenes in Pro Wrestling Noah? No, thank you. But Dave Meltzer doesn't cover it. Not that I really care about that either, because I don't like that clown either. But ultimately, Take Haisami's view is that it doesn't really matter. You're either on the ark sailing along or you're not. And I'm on it. And we'll see how the voyage goes now that Nosawa and Paris Del Mal are no longer part of the company. Now let's jump into match number 1. Match number 1 from May 4th, Korakuen Hall, was Simon Gotch versus Kinya Okada. Short but effective match. Kinya Okada gets a lot of experience, comes in here looking good like he always does, but not good enough, which is almost always the case. But you can't expect, surely you couldn't expect, Kinya Okada to come in here and defeat Simon Gotch. There's no way that was going to happen. Gotch had faced Funaki and just looked incredible at it. hung with him like very few can and have. Did come up on the short end of the stick here, but in the same way, Gotch dominated Okada here. Pretty much took control of this kid, rode him around the mat like a horse. I mean, just rode him into the ground, controlled him without a problem. Kenya Okada got some offense in, but not much in the 4-minute and 58-second match, which saw Simon Gotch win and stand tall. Second match of the night was the unit that is no longer with us, that has moved on to Dragon Gate. That's Paros Del Mal de Japón, Nosawa, Takano Jr., and Super Crazy taking on Alejandro, Kai Fujimura, and Yasutaka Yano. This match was another short one, less than 5 minutes, a little less than Okada versus Gotch, which is saying something. And the star of this show was the guy I promised you all would be a star as soon as they brought him in, Takano Jr. Takano Jr. dominated Alejandro, Fujimura, and Yano. There's no other words to say it. He took control of this match, easily controlled all of those guys, had a little help from Nosawa and Super Crazy, but didn't need much. He did use his bull rope. Of course, he's going to cheat because he's part of Paros Del Mal, and that's what they do, but he certainly didn't have to. He just did it because he wanted to, and controlled this match, took those guys down, and won it for Paros Del Mal. Again, no point lingering on a Paros Del Mal match. They're not here to wrestle anybody else going into the future, so I'm not going to waste your or my time analyzing much of what they did on this show. There isn't much to analyze in this match anyway, honestly. Now, don't get me wrong, Alejandro, Fujimura, and Yano are great wrestlers, like always. But here, Takano Jr. came in, controlled them, rode them into the ground, defeated them, win Paros Del Mal. Match 3 was a match I wanted to love, because it had two of my favorites in it. Congo members, Keno and Masakatsu Funaki, took on Slex, another one of my favorites, one of my favorite Guy Jeans coming back into Noah, but his partner was that bastard, Kendo Kashin. Look, guys, I'm going to come across like a guy that doesn't love Noah the way he does on the show, and didn't love this show, and I did. I really enjoyed this show, but this wasn't for me. I watched the match, don't get me wrong, but as soon as you take three amazing wrestlers like Keno, Funaki, and Slex, and you sprinkle in a little Kendo Kashin, and you've just ruined the meal. You know what I mean? You've just taken something that would have been wonderful and turned it into some kind of goofy parody of a wrestling match, where, of course, we got the little dance in the beginning with Slex and Kendo Kashin putting on the sunglasses, and that's a Slex thing, so I got over that. But watching the masked old machine, or whatever he's calling himself these days, Kendo Kashin, jump around with Slex took something away from that. When Slex does it, it comes across like an arrogant, cocky heel, showing you that he's the man, right? And comes across like some kind of funny, poke you in the ribs, laugh at the funny wrestlers. Not really my thing. And against Funaki and Keno, coming out acting like clowns, it just seems like a horrible mistake. It seems like anybody with an ounce of sense wouldn't do that. But again, this is normally a Slex thing, which I don't crap on, right? But watching Kendo Kashin do it just took away from it completely. The match was what it was. It was a lot of Kendo Kashin taking Funaki up to the balcony and trying to throw him off. I don't know what's entertaining about that. I don't know what's fun about that. I don't know what... It's not wrestling done right. Funaki is one of the greatest wrestlers on God's earth. So watching him participate in this nonsense is just almost cringeworthy to me. Keno hates it. That's one reason I love Keno, is he really comes across like he legitimately hates stupidity in wrestling. But here he's a big part of it thanks to Kendo Kashin. And in the end, Keno defeats Slex because, the goofy old man machine, Kendo Kashin's too busy fighting in the crowd and up in the balcony with Funaki than he is to bother wrestling. And they can't wrestle, because Funaki would just embarrass him. Funaki would tie him up like a pretzel and make him tap out probably in under 3 minutes. So a way to make this match last, which we didn't really need it to last. Let Funaki beat the shit out of Kendo Kashin and pin him and end it. But instead, they played around upstairs while Keno pins Slex. That's another negative to me about this match. If someone's going to eat a pin here, it should be Cashin, not your hot Gaijin who's coming in looking like $1,000,000. Of course, Keno beats Slex. I mean, I would like to see that singles match. I think it'd be very good. I think Keno wins probably 4 out of 5 times, but at least it would have been a great match. Here, it was just a constant distraction with Kendo Cashin and his nonsense. But Keno wins with the PFS on Slex in about 11 minutes in a match that I just could have done without on a show that I liked overall. But again, just why does Kendo Cashin got to be on these shows doing the same stupid stuff all the time? Give me somebody else, okay? Give me somebody. I don't need comic relief. Some people say, oh, they need comic relief in the midst of such a serious show that Noah usually puts on. I don't. It's just cringeworthy. Sorry. Match 4 were the Kongo Juniors Tadasuke, Hajime Ohara, and Haruki taking on the invading Gaijins, Dragon Bane, Alpha Wolf, and Extreme Tiger. Now, I have to give Bane, Wolf, and Tiger credit here. They toned down the high flying. They still utilized it without going into the commentary tables and without over reliance upon it. Here, they worked a more grounded wrestling match, and I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dragon Bane, Alpha Wolf, and Extreme Tiger. Although Extreme Tiger had already shown me he could do that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Bane and Wolf show me they're capable of it. So when they wrestle again, I want to see more matches like that. I want to see more matches like this out of these 3. Matches that are more Noah's style. And you can throw in your leaping and your flying a little bit. You can work it. Ninja Mac's good at working it in. Extreme Tiger's good at working it in. And here, all 3 of these guys worked it in well. I think the problem with this match was Haruki. Haruki is distracted. Haruki is not himself since losing the match to Hao and having to shave his head and go back to the Haruki name. He's not himself, and he wasn't himself here, and that cost Kongo this matchup. He just didn't have the intensity here. Watching Dragon Bane and Tadasuke go at it was very interesting. I think Alpha Wolf and Ohara was great. And Extreme Tiger pretty much was the standout of this match again, in my opinion. Now, Dragon Bane is a big guy. I mean, for being a luchador and a diver that he is, he's a pretty decent-sized guy. So watching him and Tadasuke in a singles match would be very good. But with Haruki lacking intensity and not really seeming to focus, he lost the match as Alpha Wolf hit the Night Wolf on him at around the 10-minute mark. It's another short match. A lot of these matches, and I'm not complaining. I'm not one of these guys who need 15, 20, 25-minute matches from top to bottom of a card. Not at all. But some of these surprise me. I feel like the Kongo Juniors need to get it together a little bit more. I think they're an amazing team, an amazing threesome. No doubt about that. And we can only blame Haruki's loss to Hal for so long until you really start questioning what's going on with them. And it's Kongo. What's going on with Kongo, period? They're not looking good as of late at all. And I really question what's going on. But the luchadors, the Gaijins come in and get a big win here. Now, before the 5th match started, the N1 Victory Tournament was advertised. Opening night at Budokan, and they will finish in Osaka in early September. So we got August and September set aside for the N1 Victory Tournament. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, if you're familiar with the G1 Climax in New Japan Pro Wrestling, this is Pro Wrestling Noah's version of it. A great tournament that should show us amazing matches, and the winner will be a big, giant deal. I cannot wait for this show. I cannot wait for these matches. These are going to be a highlight and example of why Pro Wrestling Noah is wrestling done right. I guarantee it. Moving ahead to match 5 was Kongo. Once again, we're talking about Katsuhiko Nakajima and Manabu Soya. Interesting team. Don't see that tag team too often. Not in my recollection. And they took on Michael Elgin and Masa Kitamiya, who are on fire and look like one of the best tag teams in all of Pro Wrestling Noah already. I mean, when those two faced off and decided to start teaming up, that lit my eyes afire because I knew the kind of team they could be, and that's the kind of team they are. They come in here, dominate, throw guys around, and play no games. But they're facing Nakajima and Soya. Now, my first thought was that the enforcer of Congo, Manabu Soya, would lose this matchup for his team. Look, as good as Soya is, as tough as he is, as strong as he is, as much as he gets in the face of Michael Elgin and they have a stare down and it looks as serious as can be, he just doesn't win very much. And he definitely doesn't win the big matches. But here we can't insult Soya because he did not lose here. This match was very entertaining and very good, under 10 minutes. But Elgin and Kitamiya were the stars here, and there was no doubt about that. They didn't dominate this match, but they never once looked like they were in peril. They never once looked like they were in trouble, in danger of losing. And not only did they get the win here, Katsuhiko Nakajima loses again. He eats the pin. Michael Elgin defeats him after a buckle bomb and an Elgin bomb, and just pins the former GHC heavyweight, two-time heavyweight champion. I don't know what's going on. Now, don't get me wrong. Elgin and Kitamiya can beat anybody. And there's no shock, and I don't want to hear any more turds in the punch bowl moaning about Michael Elgin. I mean, thank you to the Japanese audience who have accepted this man and really seem to enjoy his matches. But the you American turds in the Noah Punch Bowl, who's just got to continue to focus on this man with negative energy, God, it's getting tiresome, guys. I've already muted a lot of you on Twitter. I'm not interested in hearing your opinion about that anymore. It's just old. But Michael Elgin pins Nakajima, and a lot of people are losing their mind. Why not? Everyone's pinning Nakajima. I feel like if I signed a Noah contract, I'd probably get to pin Nakajima. I think that's just how it works now. You come into Pro Wrestling Noah, you get to pin Nakajima. Everyone else has. I mean, Nakajima, since losing the title, has been an afterthought to Pro Wrestling Noah. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know why that is. But it's a simple fact. And here he gets beat again, and it's just no longer shocking. I mean, it's disappointing. And not because it's Elgin. I don't want to see Nakajima lose. I feel like Soya should have been the one who lost here. But not only did he not lose, he carries Nakajima out as if, the man couldn't walk on his own. Really, shocker. Not the end of this match to me, because Michael Elgin's a former Ring of Honor World Champion. He's not a guy to mess around with. And it doesn't matter whether you like him or not. Him pinning Nakajima isn't incredibly shocking to me. It's the fact that Nakajima just keeps getting pinned by everybody that's shocking to me. And he seems to be an afterthought to this company as of late, and I wish I knew why. I wish I could get some news on that somehow. But I don't know what's going on with him. But big win for Elgin and Kitamiya as they move closer and closer to the Tag Team Championship. And I wouldn't be shocked if they win them because they're damn good. Damn good. Match number 6 was a wild one. We had Stinger, consisting of Hayata Yoshinari Ogawa, Chris Ridgway, Seiki Yoshioka, and Yu Yu Sutsuma, taking on the Noah Junior regulars, Daisuke Harada, Atsushi Kotogi, Yohei, Hao, and Junta Miyawaki. I mean, who needs Paris Demal when you have these two factions going at each other? Because that's what it reminded you of. After Stinger actually came into the match and posed for a pre-match photo opportunity. I loved it because you just don't get that chance very often. Ogawa seemed deleted. He got the group together. They held up their titles and posed for a picture. I loved it. I saved that, and I'll use it a lot because they are a great faction. But right after that, the huge brawl ensued. Here we go, off to the races. The Noah Junior regulars just attack them. They do let them get their photo opportunity and then instantly start attacking them. But I thought we were watching Congo for a minute, but I loved it. This match was wild. It was all over the place, brawling back and forth. It did settle down into an eventual wrestling match, which Stinger controlled. Stinger is arguably the best faction in this company. I mean, they are outshining Congo by a mile. Paris Demal now gone. The Segura Army takes a hit at the end of the show, a little bit. And they just really seem to be the men in this company. And they get the big win here when Yoshioka hits a buzzsaw kick on Yohei around the 13-minute mark. And I think Yoshioka and Susumu have been looking great, although they're two guys without a title in this faction, and that came out to haunt everybody because at the end of this match, as Ridgeway and Ogawa are mouthing off, basically saying they need opponents, who they're willing to fight anybody for their newly won junior tag team titles, they're attacked by, you saw it if you were watching, Susumu and Yoshioka. Their partners, the guys they just posed in that in that pre-match picture with. I mean, being familiar with Stinger and friendly with Hisami, thankfully, I understand that this does not break the faction up. I mean, you see this anywhere else in wrestling. We're talking about a faction that doesn't exist anymore or guys are kicked out of it. But no, not in Stinger. They're just such tough bastards that they can attack each other and beat each other up, and it's okay. It's sort of what Ogawa seems to expect. It sort of seems to be what Ogawa wants you to do in order to take you seriously. I mean, it sounds crazy, but that's the way it is. Susumu and Yoshioka are not out of Stinger. They are trying to sway Hayata to be on their side here. And I don't know what side he'll take. I don't know if he really needs to take any side in this situation. But we've now got an inner war amongst Stinger, and they're not breaking up. Nobody's getting booted from the unit, as far as I understand and can see, and from Ogawa's comments. I mean, it's just not happening. And we're about to see who the best junior tag team champions are, but I'm telling you, Susumu and Yoshioka looking like they're willing to go the extra mile, looking like heels, if you will, more heels than Ridgeway and Ogawa are. And they're going to be tough to overcome. I mean, they're just developed this attitude that they want titles back that they never lost. They had to give them up back when Yoshioka was injured. And now they want the titles back. And this is going to be an amazing show to see what goes on. What do you think about this? What do you think about an inner squabble? Not just a squabble. This is a brawl. This is knockdown, drag-out stuff. One comment was, hey, there is no rule that the same team shouldn't challenge, right? Susumu said this. Myself and Yoshioka will get the belts back that we had to return. And that's what it's about. So we'll see where the inner fighting amongst the Stinger faction takes us. Interesting stuff. Next match was one I've been looking forward to. Cayeto Kia Mia versus Ninja Mac. Now, I have mentioned this on past shows. I'm going to throw it up here again one more time. I've had some discussions on social media with Ninja Mac more than once. When Noah first announced this guy, I knew nothing about him and assumed that he would just be another leaping, flipping, high-flying guy that I could do without. Ninja Mac saw those comments and promised me that wouldn't be the case. Now, look, I got to give this kid credit. Well, he's not a kid. I think he's in his 30s. Got to give this man credit. Most guys, most American wrestlers, those of you that aren't familiar with American wrestlers, are hypersensitive crybabies. Okay, I have had grown men lose their mind because I have negatively reviewed one of their matches. I've had grown men cry, moan, pout, call for me to be blacklisted. Yeah, no kidding. All kinds of nonsense. Companies tell me not to come back to their shows because I didn't like it, or I didn't like one of the matches. Ridiculous stuff. And here, Ninja Mac, and I didn't really insult him. I was just like, we'll see what this is about. And here, instead of taking offense to that, he just said, hey, just wait and see, man. We'll wait and see what I can do in Noah. I was like, oh, okay. All right. I'll do that. I'll keep an eye on this guy. Rather than just sort of roll my eyes and move along down the road. And the first match he was in pro wrestling, no, it wasn't for me. All flips, all dives, leaps, jumps. My biggest concern. But I still hung with him because I thought, okay, all right. This clearly was the style of match Noah wanted here, that threesome. Okay, him and Bane and Wolf, right? It clearly looked to be what the company wanted. They wanted the high-flying, everything's wild AEW TV style match. So I just said it wasn't for me and moved along. And as soon as I saw this matchup, I thought, here we go. Here we go. Here's this guy's going to show me he's legit, and that's exactly what he did. Ninja Mac, with his high-flying and his martial arts moves, which he's very good. See, if you're going to be ninja, you better be damn good at this shit. Okay, and I don't mean just jumping and diving. Tons of people can jump and dive. I'm talking about the martial arts presentation, and this guy has it down. This guy is believable. This guy looks like a black belt. This guy wrestles like he's a ninja. Believably. Look, I'm going to throw this out here, and some of you are going to shake your head. Some of you are going to say that Lavelle guy is crazy, doesn't know what he's talking about. But bear with me and let me explain what I'm about to say. Ninja Mac reminds me of the Great Muta. Bear with me. I'm not comparing the man under that mask to Keiji Muto. It's not what I'm doing. But when I was a young teenager, I don't remember, 86, 87, I don't know what year. I don't remember the year that the Great Muta debuted for Jim Crockett Promotions. But it was right around in there somewhere. 85, 86, 87, somewhere in there. I do not have the savant wrestling memory like some guys do. I don't. But I remember I remember it. I remember him coming in with that hood, taking it off and having that painted face and doing those moves. I remember it. And I remember calling friends, and I remember telling my dad about it. I remember, I don't know who this Great Muta is, but he impresses the hell out of me. This is how Ninja Mac reminds me of him. Not that they're carbon copies, not that Ninja Mac's going to be as big of a star as Keiji Muto. But when I first saw the Great Muta is how Ninja Mac made me feel in this match. And that's damn impressive. Now, again, their styles aren't even super close. But just their presentation, just the believability that this guy who works like a ninja is legit. That's how Muta made me feel. And I loved this for the same reason. Now, Muta won that debut, and Kia Mia comes back with the Tiger Suplex and defeats Ninja Mac after a very tough match. I mean, Cayeto Kia Mia, I don't know if he's ever wrestled anybody like this. And he really had to pull out all the stops in just under 10 minutes to win this. And it was impressive. It was an impressive win for Kia Mia, but it was an impressive singles debut for Ninja Mac. And this is the kind of stuff Noah needs to show us with Ninja Mac again and again. I don't want to see a bunch of mixed tags. I don't. This guy is too valuable to be wasting away in a bunch of mixed tag team matches. Get this guy in as many singles matches as you can. Great stuff. Match 8 from the May 4th show from Korakuen Hall was Goji Ozaki, Daiki Inaba, and Yoshiki Inamura taking on Satoshi Kojima, Naomichi Marufuji. I don't know why I struggle with Marufuji's first name. I really don't. And Masato Tanaka. Now, this was a good matchup. It was a preview. Wanted to show us what Shiozaki versus Kojima might look like when they get together. And that's what this really was about. But Daiki Inaba, anytime he's in there against Marufuji, it is lightning in a bottle. They really have something. So does Tanaka and Inamura, who have been facing off against each other for some time now, with Tanaka going on and on about how Inamura continues to get better, and he continued to get better here as well. Just looked really good. I'm a big fan of Inamura myself. Daiki Inaba's been coming on strong, although I think he has taken a step back or two as of late. And Marufuji is always money. And this went back and forth. This is a very solid matchup. It was one of the longer matches on the show at almost 15 minutes long. And amazingly, Kojima nails a lariat on Goji Ozaki at the 14-minute match and gets the pin. So Kojima's coming in from New Japan looking better than he ever has. And you guys know me by now. You know I'm not a big fan of calling this guy a dad. You know I'm not a big fan of taking the guys that are in their 40s or older and instantly acting like they aren't worth the time. You know I'm not a fan of Pro Wrestling Noah fans that like to go on and on about the guys being too old, when really they're only talking about Muto and Fujita. Honestly, when you pin people down that bitch and moan about old guys, that's what they'll end up telling you. Because you can't deny, I mean, Goji Ozaki's not old, but I don't know if they lump him in there. Kojima is still an amazing worker and wrestler, as you saw in this matchup. Marufuji's incredible. Segura's incredible. I mean, there's nobody from Funaki is one of the best wrestlers in the world. So really, when you try to pin these guys down, it's difficult because they just want to whine and complain about old men. But then when you try to pin them down about who's bad, what old men are bad in Pro Wrestling Noah, they only have Muto, who isn't bad, but he's slow and has bad knees and hips. So yeah, okay. And Fujita, who isn't bad, but has a bad reputation, so they don't like him. Whatever. This matchup was what it was. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was back and forth. Really enjoyable. And it was an opportunity for Kojima to get a pin on Giozaki, which he does, so we can focus on their singles match for the GHC heavyweight title going forward. Good match. It didn't light the world on fire for me. It wasn't my favorite match of the night. I mean, this coming off of Ninja Mac and Kiya Mia, this should have been up there ahead of this, and what is, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with this match. It was fine. It was your typical six-man matchup in pro wrestling now. Or was it six, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 versus 3. Again, guys, I feel like how I feel sort of worn down is taking away from my presentation this week, and I apologize. But big win for Kojima, pinning Go Giozaki here. Main event time, match 9 from May 4th, Korakuen Hall show. The Segura Army, Takashi Segura and Hideki Suzuki, defending the GHC Heavyweight Tag Team Championships against the Los Mexicanos, Rene Dupree and El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. Now, this was an inner squabble. This is similar to the Stinger inner squabble, but nowhere near as volatile. Holy cow, that's what shocks me about Stinger. Jumping back to that real quick. I mean, those guys legit seem to hate each other. I mean, but they aren't, but they say they don't, and the faction's still holding together. But they wrestle and fight and interact with each other as if they can't stand each other, as if they hate each other's guts and want to kill each other. You don't see that from Segura and Suzuki versus Dupree and Wagner Jr. You just don't. It's more of a respectable, hey, shake our hands and let's challenge each other for the heavyweight tag team titles. And now the point here was that Rene Dupree and El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., that is such a mouthful. And I'm pretty sure it means the son of Dr. Wagner Jr. So this is Dr. Wagner Jr. Jr. But the point here is that Wagner Jr. and Dupree never lost the GHC heavyweight tag titles a year or two ago after they had to relinquish them due to the COVID restrictions. They couldn't come into the country, so they had to give up the titles, and they bounced around between a couple teams since then, and they've returned, and they want the titles back. And this was a good fight. This was, honestly, I'm not surprised at the outcome. I'm not surprised that Dupree and Wagner Jr. win the titles, that they beat Segura and Suzuki, but in a way I am. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, Dupree and Wagner Jr. are good and they're solid, but how they work together outside the country since they gave up the tag titles? I mean, Segura and Suzuki won a mini tournament for these titles, beating some of the best teams in the world. I mean, really coming in there, controlling that tournament, winning the titles, then defending them against Nakajima and Keno, an incredible team in and of its own right. To have Dupree and Wagner Jr. return, who I don't think teamed together outside Noah since they departed, I don't think. Not in any kind of remarkable, like, oh, did you see this match way? And they come in and defeat their fellow Segura Army members, Takashi Segura and Hideki Suzuki? And Segura took the loss at the 18-minute mark from a moonsault from El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., whose name I almost exhaust me saying. And I'm not making fun of the guy, it's just a fact. Good matchup, solid matchup, respectable matchup. What you want to see when you're fighting for titles like the GHC Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. No gaga, no nonsense, no stupidity. Just straight up, solid, great, professional tag team wrestling match. That's all the former champs regain their titles and end the show as your new tag team champions. And of course, their next challengers are going to be Michael Elgin and Masa Kitamiya, and that is going to be must-see. It's rare to see tag team champions or to any champion lose their title in their first defense, so I don't know what to make of that, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Elgin and Kitamiya could do it. We'll talk about that match in previews coming up when we get to it, but this was a very solid show. I enjoyed this show very much. The match of the night to me was Kitamiya versus Ninja Mac. And honestly, nothing else was even that close. I guess the second match would have been this one, the tag team championship match. Very solid, very good, very respectable matchup between faction members. But again, Kitamiya versus Ninja Mac was the match for me and the kind of thing I want to see more and more of. We'll come back here momentarily to review the second night, May 5th from Korakuen Hall, in just a minute.